The anti-carnivore movement is collapsing, and we get to witness it in all its glory as it happens. The experts are scrambling to convince you that carnivore is dangerous. From fitness gurus and nutritionists to PhDs, GPs, and cardiologists, carnivore can't possibly be a healthy option. Because if it were, what would happen to the industry's livelihoods and egos built on the idea that meat is the enemy? So today, I want to show you exactly how their narrative is falling apart. Just looking at basic human behavior. Here's how you know that the anti-carnivore collapse is happening. Getting louder in an argument typically means you're losing control. When someone is confident, they stay calm. They speak clearly, they rely on evidence, not emotion. But when someone is losing, when they feel the ground shifting under their feet, they tend to get louder. The tone changes. The language becomes extreme, dramatic, even panicked. And that's what we see right now on social media in videos by the mainstream experts. If carnivore really was irrelevant, dangerous, or extreme, they wouldn't feel the need to scream about it. They wouldn't feel the need to constantly warn people as if carnivore is a public health threat. And this is what happens when the narrative slips out of someone's control. Isn't that right, Lane Norton? The next sign of collapse is the gatekeeping. When arguments start failing, when you can't rely on the last 50 years of failed nutrition guidance, the qualifications start showing up. Suddenly it's, what are your qualifications? Are you a dietitian? Have you got a PhD? What gives you the right to be talking about diet and nutrition like this? And the gatekeeping is the last refuge of the person without a good counterargument. And it's especially ridiculous because most of the people doing the gatekeeping haven't tried carnivore and do not know anyone who has tried carnivore. These gatekeeping experts probably have no experience reversing metabolic disease. And it's not hard to find gatekeepers who have visible metabolic problems themselves. This gatekeeping is a way to protect status, not truth. They don't want you to be talking about results because results threaten their credentials. I've taken out massive loans and studied for years to get my qualifications. How dare you come along with your questions? They don't want normal people speaking up because normal people aren't allowed to question them. But more and more, that's exactly what's happening. And you only get to be the bully in the schoolyard until such time as enough people stand up and start saying, hey, you need to stop being the bully. Their counterarguments are still more focused on process rather than outcome. And this is a big one because when something works, when it really works, people talk about the outcomes. The weight's gone, the pain's gone, the type 2 diabetes is gone, the medications have gone. But when something doesn't work, that's when we start talking about the process. That's when the evidence-based studies become really important. Technically, mechanistically, this is linked to, this is potentially associated with. You know what's missing here? The actual results. The experts who argue against carnivore never talk about outcomes. They never talk about results because those outcomes embarrass their position. And that's why they're still clinging to models and mechanisms and hypotheticals. And they're quite happy to ignore the thousands of people who are actually getting results. If the process that you are so invested in can't show real practical outcomes, can't show real practical results, then the process is useless. I don't care how many studies you've got. And neither do more and more people, and this is why their narrative is collapsing. But to these people, all that matters is the studies. Anecdotes have no value. And this is my favorite contradiction. When thousands of people get off medications and reverse type 2 diabetes with carnivore, that's just anecdotes. That is meaningless. That has no value in the real world, despite it being real practical examples of success. But the moment one person gets sick on carnivore, suddenly that's an anecdote we should notice. Suddenly, that one anecdote becomes proof that carnivore is dangerous. See, I told you so. That person had a stroke 2 months after starting carnivore. Well, you can't have it both ways. Either anecdotes matter or they don't. If thousands of positive outcomes mean nothing, then one negative outcome means less than nothing. But if you want to treat one person having a stroke on carnivore as evidence that carnivore causes strokes, then the thousands of people reversing disease on carnivore must count as evidence too. And this is why mainstream health's narrative is just collapsing. Inconsistency isn't science, it's desperation. So when you put all this together, the shouting, the gatekeeping, the selective use of anecdotes, the shouting, the gatekeeping, the selective use of anecdotes, it becomes clear the anti-carnivore movement isn't growing, it's panicking, it's collapsing. Let me know in the comments below what has improved for you on carnivore. And if you want to discover how we got here, check out this video next.